Do I feel lucky? Well, do you, punk?
Good morning, Vietnam!
I love the smell of napalm in the morning.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
I feel the need for speed.
I wish I knew how to quit you.
Love means never having to say you're sorry.
You do. You'll shoot your eye out, kid.
Happy Monday, moviegoers. Welcome to episode 238. Welcome to the Fabelmans, and welcome to a brand new episode of the Cine-Men Movie Podcast. I'm your host, Juan, and I am joined by the cast, the crew, the guy, the bad guy, Zach. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, man. How about you?
I'm doing great. You know, a great weekend. Got to see some pretty good stuff. And I'm here joined with you talking about another great movie, The Fabelmans.
Yeah.
Which was a first time watch for me, so I think it's going to be pretty interesting to check out. So yeah, got some good stuff coming ahead. You guys should know that if you do not know, a lot of our episodes are brought to you by San Marcos Mexican restaurant located right here in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, at 2301 Southwest 59th and Agnew in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. Join them Monday through Friday for their lunch specials, $5 margarita Wednesdays, and let them know that the Cine-Men Movie Podcast sent you. Great food and even better customer service. Zach, how was your weekend?
My weekend was pretty good. Went to the movies twice this weekend.
Not
we'll talk
twice.
About that recent watch. Yeah, recent watches here in a little bit. I do want to, on a somber note, just kind of, I'm sure you've heard the news. There's been another mass school shooting.
Oh, no, I have not.
Nashville. There was at a Christian little preschool. 6 people were dead, 3 kids, 3 adults.
Oh, man, where was this at?
Nashville, Tennessee.
Oh, boy. Man, that's unfortunate.
So, of course, me and you, we definitely want to, well, me, you, Ed, Craig, they're not going to be on the show, but we definitely want to send our thoughts and prayers to the families of this awful tragedy. It just, I don't know about you, but it's just become very horrifically mundane just to scroll through the internet or get on the TV and see that there's been another mass shooting, whether it be at a school, business, a church, whatever it is. And just like, we're not a political podcast, but it's just, we clearly have a problem, and I don't know what the answer is, but it's got to stop. I read a statistic yesterday that we're barely almost 4 months into the year, and there's already been 122 shootings. So,
like you said, this isn't political, and I don't think anybody has the answer for any of the stuff that's going on today. So yeah, I'll leave it at that. It's unfortunate, and I don't know if there's really, I mean, we can always put our 2 cents in on how to take care of these issues, but like I said, at the end of the day, I don't think anybody knows how to take care of these issues.
Yeah.
But we'll leave it at that. That's uncertain. Times lie ahead for sure, and yeah, thoughts and prayers go out to those families. But you know what? We haven't talked some entertainment news in a while, but over the weekend, Jonathan Majors is his career is on hold. Man, he had a issue with a girlfriend, ex-girlfriend, I don't know what it's called, but Jonathan Majors supposedly strangled her, put her in the hospital, and he got arrested for it. Does not look good.
I mean, the only thing that's been, I don't know if you've seen those Navy commercials, Army commercials that he's been doing. The Army pulled those. Right now, no studio. I mean, Marvel's not backed out. He still can't. Everything is still. I think everything's kind of on hold right now. He hasn't been kicked out of any major Marvel, or he has a new movie coming out this Christmas called Magazine Drama. I think he's like playing a bodybuilder or something like that, which is awards contender. But as of right now, I mean, according to his attorney, they can prove that he's the victim in the situation. I don't know how they're going to do that. Yeah, supposedly they have evidence to support that he did none of this. So we'll find out.
Let me throw this out there. Could you imagine if he's guilty in all this, and what Marvel now has to do with the
Yeah.
entire phase built around this guy. I mean, he is Josh Brolin right now. He's Thanos for this next phase. And
Yeah.
For Marvel to pull back, that would be huge. And you want to talk about I don't want to because Disney and Marvel they're too big for this. But would that be the straw that broke the camel's back as far as like, hey, all of our stuff is getting completely, you know, down and crapped upon.
Yeah.
Could you imagine?
I the problem is with this argument is that because we're in the multiverse phase in Marvel, they could easily just trade out Jonathan Majors for somebody else, which I don't know how they're going to do it. I don't know if they're even going to do it. I mean, I want to believe, I think you want to believe too, that he wouldn't do something like this, but we're human, we make mistakes. Unfortunately, we live in a world where you make one mistake and your career's done. It's
Yeah.
over. So,
If you guys have not watched or listened to last week's episode, go back and listen to it. We talked about The Big Lebowski. We also talked our top 5 Jeff Bridges movies. Um, all of the links to the social media and all of the links to our episodes are on the social media, facebook.com/the Cine-Men Movie Podcast. The Instagram is all one word, Instagram/the Cine-Men Movie Podcast. The Twitter is at Cine-Men405. And then the email, which we will dig into the email bag next week, CINEMEN921 at gmail.com. You guys can find the links to all these social medias. Last week's episode was very unique. It was one of the first movies in a while where we all kind of thought something different of the movie. So go back and listen to that wherever you listen to podcasts.
and I did want. I totally forgot to remind or tell the fans, if you are a fan of The Big Lebowski, they are showing it at the Warren next month in April for its 25th anniversary. So,
Zach, is
there
it
you go.
crazy that April is just a few days away already?
I don't understand it. I really don't. I think it's true. The older you get, time just flies even quicker.
Time flies quickly. But let's get into some recent watches, man. Do you have anything you want to recommend to me or to anybody else listening?
Yeah, I got a couple things. If you're a silent movie fan or if you like Charlie Chaplin, there's a great Showtime documentary called The Real Charlie Chaplin, and it goes into like they kind of define the line of who is Charlie Chaplin, who is the tramp, and how they kind of intertwined, and how at the time he was such a big phenomenon. I mean, he was like the Beatles, or he was like Tom Cruise of that part of the movie industry at that time.
He did all of his own stunts?
He did it all stunts. I mean, it was all this slapstick humor. I mean, it was truly, at the time, he was just, the guy. He was the dude, as they would say, coming up from last week's episode. So yeah, check that out. And then I went to the movies twice. I went and saw John Wick Chapter 4. I know the girth is scaring you, Johnny, but it is well worth it. I think this is the best. Almost 3 hours, 2 hours and 49 minutes.
Golly, for an action movie?
Yeah, dude, it is. It's totally worth it. It flies just like that. The action is unreal. I mean, it truly. I never thought that an action movie could outdo Mission Impossible Fallout, but this one is close. I mean, the stunts in this are truly something to be seen on the big screen.
And you love Mission Impossible Fallout.
Yeah, so it was. Yeah. I'd say Keanu Reeves and his team and director Chad Stahelski, they did a good job with this one. So,
what else did you?
And then, I had to go check out. I had to support my girl Florence Pugh. Her new movie, A Good Person, is in theaters right now. It made no money, so by the time Super Mario Brothers comes out, it'll probably be on streaming. I'm dead serious. There was like maybe 3 other people in our theater when we saw it. Very, very good film. It's got like 50%, but you know what we say about Rotten Tomatoes. Tremendous performances from Florence Pugh, Morgan Freeman. It's a very emotionally driven story.
You said Morgan Freeman?
Yeah, Morgan Freeman's in it. I know it doesn't make sense, but
I'm sorry,
it does.
Know why I laughed.
We haven't seen Morgan Freeman in a while, actually.
No.
But it very, very, like I said, emotionally driven story about a woman dealing with an opiate addiction. Just go check it out if you like Florence Pugh. She delivers in this, and it's a fantastic film. So,
nice.
So I'd say go to the theater. John Wick Chapter 4, Good Person, or like I said, if you're an old movie fan, check out the Charlie Chaplin documentary on Showtime. So.
I haven't checked out anything new recently. I did rewatch Top Gun Maverick, Parasite, Godzilla '97, Catch Me If You Can. I watched the Fabelmans for today. I started.
What made you want to rewatch Parasite?
I wanted to show somebody Parasite. I told them it was a really good movie, and of course, I come through.
Yeah.
If I recommend it, it's going to be a good watch. Puss in Boots, The Last Wish. I started that. I didn't finish it. I really like the animation though. Yeah, if I had to recommend anything, it would be the Fablemans, and the Top Gun Maverick is always a fun watch. But yeah.
Speaking of Top Gun Maverick, next week, guys, is one of our big episodes that we do every year. Our top 5 plus 5. It'll be our 2022 review. We're making our list, checking them twice, making sure what's going to be honorable mentions, and we'll be going down as our top 5.
Look at some of the movies here on the poster that we could possibly be talking about next week. Tar, Everything Everywhere All at Once, Babylon,
Jurassic World Dominion.
Nope was a huge one. It's
Thor:
gonna
Love
be
and Thunder.
It's gonna be a fun week next week. Marry Me.
Yeah.
That was a huge surprise for me. I didn't think Marry Me was gonna be good, so I'm gonna see if that's on my list anywhere.
Yeah. So send in your list. We'll definitely read them as we're doing the show. Send in your top 10 favorite films of the year, and we'll definitely voice your opinions.
Lightyear's on there. That's Craig's probably number 1 or number 2.
Well, I think his number 1 is going to be Sonic the Hedgehog 2. I'm just going to go ahead and announce it.
Jackass Forever is probably going to be Edward's number 1 or 2. See, you don't even have to. You don't even have. They don't have to be on next week. Edward,
Yeah, we named him for him.
So yeah, that'll be pretty fun.
You realize we're going to be laughing our asses off if that's really their number 1.
But we've wasted enough time. Let's talk. We're going to talk about Steven Spielberg for just a minute. Zach, he's one of your favorite directors, and we are going to go through his top 5 movies. All right, this week, guys, we are talking our top 5 Steven Spielberg movies. I could have named off a huge number of honorable mentions. It's hard to put this guy's filmography down to 5 movies. But if I had to name just 2 honorable mentions, it would be Catch Me If You Can and Schindler's List.
Yeah. Well, starting with number 34. No, just rank them all. I have 5. I'll just say 5 of them: Jaws, Ready Player One, War of the Worlds, and today's film is The Fabelmans as my honorable mention.
Zach, we'll start with you. What's number 5?
Number 5 is, I think, probably one of the earliest films we did. I think it was our first war film, Saving Private Ryan. I think that film pretty much defines what a war movie is. I think that first 25, 30 minutes is definitely goes down as one of the most realistic war sequences that's ever been put to film. And the fact that Spielberg took his time, and from what I understand, he actually, like, from the shore all the way up to the cliffs, he just shot like section by section leading up to, all the way up to the Omaha Beach sequence. Tom Hanks is phenomenal in it. Barry Pepper, Matt Damon, Tom Sizemore, who we might even talked about. He passed away a couple weeks ago. Just a fantastic film, and definitely it pisses me off still that didn't win Best Picture over Shakespeare in Love. That won Best Picture, so we know how we all feel about that. So number 5 is Saving Private Ryan.
That's a good number five. Number five for me is going to be a movie that you could look at it and be like, really, Spielberg did that? But number five for me is Hook from
Yeah.
1991. Uh, Robin Williams, Dustin Hoffman. Too many of these aren't done anymore, and when I say aren't done, I'm talking about taking a original story and making it your own. So many
Mm-hmm.
directors or so many movie studios don't do that anymore. Whether it's because they're afraid to, or they just it's a Disney. But Spielberg and he took a Disney name, right? Which I think Peter Pan was originally
Disney
like a
film.
Disney film, and
Mm-hmm.
he made it to where I can do this without the Disney budget. I can do this with real actors, and he turned it into a great story. And to me, that's my favorite Peter Pan adaptation. Um, I still to this day, it doesn't matter who plays Captain Hook. Dude, there's no way Dustin Hoffman is like he's embedded in my mind as Captain Hook.
What? You don't imagine Hugh Jackman from Pan? You remember? You
Oh
remember
my
that?
god, that's terrible. Yeah,
Oh man, yeah, but Hook is one. Yeah, I totally agree with you. Hook is one. When I see that on his filmography, I was like, oh yeah, I forgot. I forgot he did that.
and the score and soundtrack is amazing.
John Williams, man.
Yeah, so that's my number five is Hook.
Um, Number four from me. I think I'm gonna go ahead and say that this is his most underrated film. And I don't know why, like, it just hits me so hard when I guess seeing it in the theater, I had like a big reaction to it. Number four is War Horse from 2011, 2012, 2011. Um, Adapted from a play, and it basically follows a young lad and his horse, basically, and it follows it all the way from where he gets him as a baby horse all the way up until when it returns back home. And there's some really good um, World War One action sequences in this. I know it's kind of forgotten about and no one talks about it, but when Joey the horse is like running across no man's land and the explosions and um, just kind of the cinematography in that sequence is actually really well done. Um, like I said, and there's some people in here that I forgot was even in this, like David Thewlis, Tom Hiddleston, Benedict Cumberbatch is in this. Um, just a really good film, and like I said, I think it's his most underrated film. So number four is War Horse.
Spielberg with an underrated movie. Number four, Jaws from 1975. Um, they actually do play this over a big old screen while you can be in the lake and watching it. I don't think I could ever
Mm-hmm.
do that. That would terrify me to death. Um, this is another one of those movies, that redefined a decade. It's hard to believe that Jaws is so old, but also it's also hard that this movie spawned off like three terrible sequels.
Uh,
Um,
and even Spielberg is like, I'm not doing that. I'm not touching those.
but I don't know what else you can say about Jaws. It's classic. There's all kinds of T-shirts, memorabilia, everything that you can do. They have like an anniversary 4K steelbook that comes out like every summer. Jaws is the movie, man. It's the movie that made sharks cool, and it's the movie that made people wanting to do um, giant sea creature movies. Whether it be like
Mm-hmm.
killer whales or anaconda, but it made shark movies cool. To where to this day, Hollywood and people are still trying to do anaconda or shark movies. They can't. They don't. There's no success in them unless you're Steven Spielberg.
Yeah.
So number four
If you
is Jaws.
if you ever get a chance, last year it was re-released for its like 40th anniversary along with ET. I didn't. It was actually re-released in 3D. I didn't see the 3D version, but I got to see Jaws in IMAX. If it ever gets re-released in the theater, go do yourself a favor and see Jaws in the theater. It's quite an experience, actually.
Nice.
Even though you know what happens, even though you know the shark is fake, there's something innate in your body to know that, yeah, this could happen. You can go out in the ocean and be ripped apart by a giant shark. So,
Number three.
Number 3, I truly hope we get to talk about this movie sometime this year. Turns 30 years old. It's Schindler's List.
It does turn 30 this year.
So yeah, I see your little episode light bulb going above your head right now.
Bling.
I'll save my thoughts on it. I had my favorite Spielberg movie, but I think this is truly his masterpiece. Obviously, it's not a film that I'm going to put on every Friday night, but there's a lot of sentiment. There's a lot of realness to it. Obviously, there's a lot of emotional pain for Spielberg when he directed this. So yeah, I hope we get to talk about it this year. Schindler's List.
Schindler's List, man, 30 years old. That's crazy. What year did that come out?
93? No,
Yeah.
93. Yeah, 93.
93.
Wow.
So he came out with Jurassic Park and Schindler's List in the same year?
Same year. He was working on them at the same time. Well, he was doing post-production on Jurassic Park while filming Schindler's List, so that was a very odd experience.
Could you imagine if he accidentally put the Tyrannosaurus Rex in there with Schindler's List, and that's what killed off Hitler?
Well, I had a darker joke than that, but yeah, we won't do that.
The dinosaur pisses on the flame of the big pile of burning people.
Bodies. Yeah. Well, I was gonna say. Well, never mind. Just what's your number 3, man?
Number 3 is Jurassic Park. Turns 30 years old as well this year. We've already talked about it. We talked about it years ago, but man, it's one of those movies you can't explain it. You can't sit there and do any more hype about it. It's Jurassic Park. If you haven't seen it, what kind of rock have you been laying under? It's over on the Peacock. Go check it out. Number 3 for me is Jurassic Park. Number 2 for you.
Number 2 was an honorable mention. Number 2 is Catch Me If You Can. Really, really love this film. I tried to get us to do it last year for its 20th anniversary, but other things got in the way apparently. But
shots fired.
Well, we didn't do Avatar, so I'm glad we didn't waste time with that. Yeah, just a really, really fun movie. Leonardo DiCaprio, Tom Hanks. It's a very much like it's not a whodunit. Obviously, it's not a whodunit, but it's very much like a cat and mouse chase type film. Great performances, great score to this movie by John Williams. It's just an overall good Spielberg movie that, when you see his name on it, it's kind of like Cook, like, oh, yeah, he directed that, not like Steven Soderbergh or something like that. So, yeah, number 2 is Catch Me If You Can.
Number 2 for me has already been mentioned, Saving Private Ryan. It's my favorite war movie of all time. And my next 2 movies could swap 1 and 2. I would almost say this could also be a favorite Steven Spielberg movie. So
Okay.
You already laid down the law, all the realism, the performances, the action. And I will box anybody who wants to say that this is not the greatest war movie of all time. If anybody out there wants to tell me what your greatest war movie is of all time, please send it on. And there's no way that this movie is not the greatest war movie of all time. You could even throw maybe Apocalypse Now in there, but I'll still have an argument for you.
No. He'll let you send in your response, and then you'll meet him out in the alley to box.
And then wrong. If they send an email, I'll print it just so I can rip it up like this.
and then you're supposed to just like confetti it all over the place.
I got to pick it up. I'm not going to do that.
So,
Saving Private Ryan, number 2.
I'm curious as what your number 1 is, because I thought that'd be your number 1.
I got a little tricks up my sleeve.
Number 1, Jurassic Park. It's definitely a childhood favorite, and it continues to be one of my favorite films of all time. And I don't, like you said, if you don't know what Jurassic Park is, where have you been these last 30-something years? So it's just it's a glorious, glorious film. I highly recommend it. If it ever comes back in the theater, go check it out. or like you said, it's streaming on the Peacock, and just ignore it. Just do yourself a favor, watch Jurassic Park, and don't watch the other films. You'll be good. You don't need to know.
Yeah, that's true. Lost World is pretty good.
Notice I didn't respond. I like Lost World. It's just, it's hard to follow the original, honestly, in that situation.
Speaking of the original, my number one is a sentimental favorite. It's one of those.
I know what it is.
It's one of those Steven Spielberg movies that got shoved down my throat at a very young age. And the new one comes out this year. So Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark. Indiana Jones to me is, I'm not talking about the one with Shia LaBeouf either, but those three movies that he put together are probably one of the best action adventure trilogies that you could possibly, fathom and talk about. And I still kind of want to play around and maybe talk about the other ones. I don't know if we can fit the other Indiana Jones movies in before June 30th. But man, Indiana Jones, the sequences, the score, the soundtrack, Harrison Ford just kills it, man. I think he was Steven Spielberg's James Bond.
Yeah, that's true. I would agree with that.
Fighting with the Nazis and doing what he can. And I think in the time frame that these movies came out, I think Harrison Ford was a better Bond, if we can use that word, than any of the other Bond movies that came out in that time frame. Stevens, yeah. and I think, without Stevens, you could almost say without Steven Spielberg and Indiana Jones, what came out first? Did this come out first? No, Star Wars came out first.
Yeah.
But I would say, without Star Wars, maybe Indiana Jones wouldn't have given birth to, or maybe Steven Spielberg wouldn't have given birth to Indiana Jones. But I do think, man, just the hat, the whip, the song, it's iconic, and it's kind of a shame that this whole character has been kind of forgotten about. And I really can't wait. Well, I can't wait to see the numbers Indiana Jones does. I really hope it pulls in some really big numbers.
Well, I mean, you got to remember Spielberg's not directing this one, but it'll be interesting to see. It'll be interesting to see a Spielberg less Indiana Jones and see how it does. And maybe it's the sentimental fact that Harrison Ford is doing it one last time because he's 8 million years old. But I mean, I think that last one, the fourth one, just left a bad taste in people's mouth and be like, no.
And
I really don't. I really don't even believe.
Amazing.
Yeah, that is sexy. Yeah, it is. I don't really blame Spielberg for that fourth one because it was really. He said he was done after 3, but George Lucas kind of pushed him into doing it. So
that damn George Lucas.
So.
But yeah, those are our top 5 Steven Spielberg movies. Number 1 was Given for You. I think mine kind of maybe threw some off, but I really do enjoy Raiders. So
very good. This is every time you say let's rank Spielberg films, I'm like, I don't know. Like I had like War of the Worlds in there, Ready Player One. I think at one point West Side Story was in there. I'm just like, damn it. These are the films for me out of his entire filmography.
You can't. I always put it this way: if you had a fire and you can only grab 5 Spielberg films, these are the ones you can't live without.
Yeah, I would agree. That's a good way of putting it. Especially my 4K collector's steelbook edition of Schindler's List. So.
Oh wow.
But what are we talking about? Speaking of Spielberg, what are we talking about today, Johnny?
Today we're talking about the Fabelmans. Currently, it has an 8.2 on IMDb, 92% on Rotten Tomatoes. The Metascore is at 84%. Growing up in a post-World War II era, Arizona, young Sammy Fabelman aspires to become a filmmaker as he reaches adolescence, but soon discovers a shattering family secret and explores how the power of films can help him see the truth. starring Michelle Williams, Gabriel LaBelle, Paul Dano, Judd Hirsch, Seth Rogen, written and directed by Steven Spielberg. Um,
Hey, Johnny, I don't know if you can see that, but it's like Wheel of Fortune WWE version. They have the WWE stars on there tonight, this whole week.
okay.
So, just for you. Yeah, let's get into it. You said this your first time watch.
This was my first time watch. With a $40 million budget, this movie only made $42 million.
Yeah.
And it was a first time watch for me compared to this was probably your second or third time because you got to check this out in the theater, correct?
Yeah, I saw this
opening weekend.
Thanksgiving Day. It came out for Thanksgiving actually last year.
All right. This is not an intentional low blow, but how many people were you in your theater opening night?
It was a 6. I think it was like 6 or 7 o'clock showing. Maybe 12. But it was like one of the little theaters. It came out the same day as Devotion and Strange World, that Disney movie that I don't think nobody saw. So, it was.
That's upsetting.
It was kind of like sandwiched in between Black Panther and Avatar. So, we'll get into it, but I mean, like, I guess my general thoughts are, I think this is a very personal film for Spielberg, obviously, and I think it shines through with these characters in this story. And walking out of the theater, I thought it was very well done. I thought it was just an overall accomplishment of someone who was just trying to tell their life story in this semi-fictional autobiographical way. And yeah, overall, I really loved it, and I'm excited to see what you thought about it.
You know what? I wasn't dreading the watch because of how long it was, but I was like, okay, that's a lie. I was dreading it just a little bit. But at the end of the day, I'm like, it's a movie. It's Steven Spielberg. It was contender for Best Picture. So I'm excited to see where it lies. And you know what? After I watched it, and I watched it from beginning to end, one of my favorite movies of 2022 now. And I can't wait to get into it and talk about it, because at the end of the day, I wrote this in my notes, no matter what you're going through in life, and Spielberg shows this tremendously in this movie, no matter what you're going through in life, if you're a film fan, if you love movies in general, doesn't matter what kind of movies it is, comedy, horror, sci-fi, if it helps you get through the day, that's what it's supposed to do. And I believe the first 10 minutes of the movie, when they explain to little baby Spielberg about, a picture, a motion picture is something that you can continue to play throughout your mind, and it helps you get through the day. Like, his mom, Michelle Williams, explains it tremendously. Zach, you've had your story that you've shared numerous times on this show about, when you were going through your chemo and when you were going through cancer, movies helped you fight, and movies helped you get through every single day of your life. And I think that's exactly what it's supposed to do, and that's what movies do for me. So for the love of film, it's a tremendous story, from beginning all the way to end. I will say, so many great performances were in this movie. So,
yeah. I mean, we're trying to break the habit of going through scene by scene. Just
which
we're just trying to.
There's no reason to.
Yeah, but in this case, little Sammy, I think everyone, and I agree with you. I think this film, it shows the power of film and what it can do to somebody. That opening scene where Sammy's a little kid and they go see the greatest show on earth, and he is just mesmerized by the train sequence at the end of the film. I think everyone, no matter who you are, has had that experience in the theater where you're just like awestruck and just be like, yeah, I want to do that. Like, I want to make something that just inspires other people.
And then you
You
have
know, I
the sequences of him putting the train together, his dad's
mhm,
little train set, and running over a car with it. Um,
yeah,
somebody who I'm surprised didn't get any kind of mention this award season was Paul Dano.
dude. Well, let's talk about it next week because Paul Dano will be in my one of my categories for next week. I'll just say Paul Dano in this is truly he did an incredible job of casting who is basically his parents, Michelle Williams and Paul Dano. Not only did they look exactly like his real parents, but just like they're opposite spectrums of like Michelle Williams is very the artist in the family, and she wants Sammy to pursue this dream or this hobby of his, while Paul Dano's character is very much like it's a hobby. You need to grow up and be in the real world, you know.
And yeah, Paul Dano had an amazing 2022. Like you said, we'll talk about it next week. Um, and then you get the story with the mom, Michelle Williams. Did you watch any of the backstory and like the making of?
Yeah. Well, and the funny thing is I was going to tell you to rewatch the HBO documentary Spielberg, but I forgot to send it to you. Everything in that documentary is shown in this movie. I mean, it is true. Like the whole movies, the love that his mom had for the arts and just trying to be a free soul. The monkey
Now,
that was a real thing that
now,
happened.
now, the relationship between Benny and Mitzi, the mom, that's something that also really happened to Spielberg, right? The split up of his
Yes, that
parents.
he how he discovered that was through a home film that he was just editing in his room, and you know obviously it probably happened a little different than in real life, but I mean he discovered that his mom was having an affair with his father's best friend, and he really kept that buried for such a long time that I think it was filming when he was promoting Lincoln in 2012, he did like a 60 minutes interview, and he finally told the truth. He not told the truth, but just told what really happened. And I mean, I think just like anyone, it would shatter them to know that your mother doesn't love your father anymore, or what's really going on. And it really affected him, and it really shows. He blamed his father for the longest time, and it shows in his films. If like that trope of like the father figure not being in somebody's life.
Close Encounters, Jurassic Park, E.T.
E.T. Yep. Um, War of the Worlds, kind of to a certain extent.
He
War
definitely didn't
Horse.
direct. He definitely didn't direct Mr. Mom.
Got him there, Johnny.
I didn't know. I didn't know any. I knew his parents is split, but I didn't know anything about the best friend and the husband. I didn't know any of this backstory. But
Yeah,
something that kind of led me on to like, oh, this is going to be a key moment in the movie, is when they were having dinner, and one of the kids called Benny Uncle Benny, and was it the mom or the stepmom? The grandma was like, "He's not your uncle. You don't call him that." Like when she
yeah,
said that, I was like, something's gonna
ring.
happen between these two.
Yeah, it I didn't catch on to that. I mean, really, the scene that really so obviously solidified it, and I thought was just brilliantly well acted from Gabrielle LaBelle, who plays Sammy Fabelman. When he's editing the camping trip film, and the cinematography in that shot is actually really well done. It's just kind of like a 360-degree slow angle around him, and it's just like it just hits him in the face like a bag of bricks, and you're just like you feel so bad for him, but like there's a part of you that just doesn't want it to be true. And so it just the way Spielberg was able to like put that scene together, I thought was just really incredibly well done.
Every scene, I feel like, and he mentions that he talks about how this movie is like a coming of age movie.
Mm-hmm.
Every scene that was going through this movie, it felt like I was watching one of those all-time classics at the end of the day, like The Breakfast Club, or
Yeah.
like Fast Times at Ridgemont High. Even though those are kind of comedies, it felt like in 20 years this might be one of those kind of movies.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, obviously the subject matter is a little different, but like him, some of one of the scenes, one of the sequences that I love in this film is the when he and his friends get together and they're making like their little Western film or their war film, and they use, and this is in that documentary on HBO Max as well. They had to use like little tricks and trades of the group where like they would bury a stick in the ground and they would step on it and the dirt would fly up in the air to make it look like an explosion, or they had to use
For the firecrackers,
to make it look like little explosions in the background. Or it's not meant to be funny, but the funny scene of like he's filming his actor friend pulling away from him, and all the extras in the background get up, walk all the way around him to make it look like they're like dead soldiers in the foreground. It's just like, yeah, I mean, he's not who he is today, where he can rely on computers and CGI. I mean, he had to use practical and friends and family members and stuff. And it's just like, yeah, I mean, like if you were that age and you were into film, you would get your kid's camera or your parents' camera and go outside and just film your friends just doing stupid stuff, and that's what you would do.
yeah. Guys, if you want some good hot pizza here locally, go check out Red and Blues Pizza, located right here at 4500 South May Avenue in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. Great menu, great prices. Give them a call at 405-602-2838. Let them know that the Cine-Men Movie Podcast is due for some special offers. They're open 7 days a week. Not only do they have pizza, they have gyros, they have sandwiches, they have wings. So go check them out. It definitely makes for a great snack while you're watching a movie. Steven Spielberg in this movie, they made it they point out why they didn't use Spielberg or any of his real family names. What did you think of some of the sequences with the uncle?
Uncle Boris.
Yeah.
I was going to bring him up. Judd Hirsch is only in this movie for like 10, maybe 15 minutes, and he got an Oscar nomination for Best Supporting Actor for this.
Felt like Moonlight when I was watching this.
Yeah, like Mahershala Ali, he's only in the movie for such a long period of time. I think his performance is good. I think what that character is trying to do is the moral dilemma of art versus family. I think what he's able to pull that off very well. But do I think he was the best part of the film? I mean, no, but I mean, that's just my opinion. What do you think?
I thought I thought the importance of the character was he didn't have that much of a significance in the movie to where he wasn't like a big influence on Sammy.
Yeah, because I think at that point he's already discovered what happened and he's kind of stepped away from his filmmaking stuff, and he's trying. I think the ultimate thing, the point of the character is to say you have to follow your dreams. You're going to get hurt. You're going to get pushed down. You're going to offend somebody, but you have to keep going. But that doesn't really happen until he meets Monica, the Christian girl, and when he has to go and
pray.
Pray. Yeah, that's a really funny scene in a really dark comedic way. But when he has to go shoot the ditch day at the beach, and I think he finds his love for his filmmaking back again.
So I mean, I don't know if I really got to answer your question about Judd Hirsch, but I don't know.
Do you think he deserved the nomination? I guess is my question.
I mean, I can't say it's hard to sit there and say he didn't deserve it because it was a really good performance. But I mean, at the end of the day, I kind of felt like maybe he got nominated just because it was a Spielberg movie and it was nominated for Best Picture. I don't know.
I personally think that Seth Rogen and Seth Rogen and Paul Dano deserve more of a nomination than Judd Hirsch, to be honest. I really thought Seth Rogen was really good in this, considering, you're the stoner guy for all the Pineapple Express and Superbad and all that, and he's really trying to step out of that. We talked about it last week with Big Lebowski. He's really trying to step out of that shadow of what he's known for and do some serious work. And I really thought he was excellent in this. That scene where he kind of corners Sammy and says, "Listen, you need to keep making movies, otherwise it'll break your mother's heart."
Yeah,
that's a powerful scene.
Talking about Seth Rogen, I do think this movie proved that he does not need those nonchalant, raunchy comedies anymore. And I think he proved it. There was another movie that he did a few years back. But yeah, this one proved that he is officially like he stepped away. He can go, and not only did this movie put him in those shoes, but it got him a seat at the Oscars. I think it should have got him a nomination. But I think Seth Rogen is he was really good in this movie. The thing that upsets me though is like 5 people went and saw this movie.
Let's talk about this. Someone like me who idolizes Spielberg, he's my favorite director. I'm gonna go see whatever it is. Fabelmans, West Side Story, Ready Player One, War Horse, whatever it is, I'm gonna go see it. But do you think the name Steven Spielberg draws crowds anymore?
Nope. I was just talking about this with somebody the other day. West Side Story made shit. The Fabelmans made shit. I don't think that name, and it's sad, but I don't think that name means anything anymore.
Hurts my heart.
Unless he goes out and directs like fucking Black Panther, I don't think that name means anything to anybody anymore, and it's sad to say, but that's just the generation that we're in. Filmmaking does not sell tickets anymore. Explosions and superheroes do.
His last big film was
Ready Player One.
Ready Player One with almost a $600 million movie. And everything he's done since then has been biopics and the BFG, which that one. And even the Crystal Skull made $790, almost $800 million, and that. I think that's just name recognition alone for that film. Tintin did pretty good, $374 million. But yeah, it hurts me in my heart to know that, but it's like, you're right. This generation doesn't really care about really director, unless it's something like
Jordan Peele,
maybe, or Christopher Nolan. I think Christopher Nolan still has some sway with film goers, but it just doesn't. I think we have to acknowledge that Spielberg is the filmmaking class on its way out. Him, Scorsese, Francis Ford Coppola, Brian De Palma, George Lucas, that whole generation of filmmakers is on. They inspired Tarantino. They inspired Christopher Nolan, Jordan Peele, John Krasinski.
Hold on now. Look at it this way. Even the last Tarantino movie, like I don't think directors are money makers anymore. Like, people go see Creed because of the name, not because of Ryan Coogler. I don't think there's name one director right now besides Jordan Peele that it's a Jordan Peele film. He's gonna go sell tickets. There's not another director that's like that right now.
No, and Nope only. We're using Jordan Peele, but Nope only made like $171 million last year. Yeah. So it's not even. It didn't even break $200 million because.
And you can blame the pandemic, you can blame streaming, but at the end of the day, people. Maybe I'm one of those people now. People don't want to go spend money at the movies because of the name.
Yeah, I agree with you. The only
James Cameron's Avatar 2. I didn't even want to
stop.
go. I mean, I didn't even go see that.
I saw that, and it. Yeah, we're not going to get into that because it'll just make me pissed off.
Is it going to be on your list next week?
Oh yeah, number 3, bro. Let's just get ready. Let's go ahead and announce it today. I think the only, and we talked about it on that episode, I think the only person with name recognition that still works is Tom Cruise. Top Gun Maverick made almost half of $2 billion. And that could be just because of the love for Top Gun, but it's also, I mean, that last Mission Impossible made something ungodly like $500 million. So, I mean, you know, I think he's the last big movie star that we have now. And I think he's really the last name recognition person that people will go see a film of.
Streaming hurts a lot too, though.
Well,
because if that movie, if that movie was, if people knew that movie was going to come out on Paramount Plus like just 6 weeks later, I don't think it would have made that much money.
It's possible.
The Fabelmans, though, we'll get back to it. What was probably some of your favorite scenes as far as like, by the time he found out that his mom and dad are splitting, what'd you think of the announcement of the divorce scene?
I thought it was really well done. I thought it was the way he shot it was, it was more focused on the sisters because Sammy had already figured out what was going on and he knew what this outcome was going to be. And just like the swell of emotion that the sisters have, and one of them, I think the oldest sister confronts Sammy and says, like, why are you not more upset about this? All you do is just sit there and do your dumb movies and everything. It's just like there's nothing he's going to say to make the situation better. And there's nothing he's going to say to fix it. And so he's just kind of like, it's their life. They're going to do whatever they want.
You know what it made me think of, and maybe it's because I watched both movies in the same weekend, but it was when Christopher Walken announced the divorce in the Catch Me If You Can.
Yeah.
With Leo sitting there.
That's a good comparison. It's kind of like that. I mean, I've never been a child of divorce, so I don't know what that experience is like, but I'm sure it doesn't feel good. It's not something that you ever want to experience. So,
yeah.
What do you think about the
high school scene whenever he starts getting involved with the two bullies?
Yeah.
That's when it made me start. The movie transitions so well, even though there's kind of a slow burn. It's 2.5 hours, but he's got different aspects of his life. So therefore, to me, it made the film go by a little quicker than I thought it was going to, because you have little Sammy, and then you have Sammy like when he's in Arizona, kind of in high school, and then you have him in California. And once they get to California, the movie just flows by.
Yeah. There's I'm sorry I keep going back to the documentary. It's such a good companion piece just to kind of watch this movie and watch Spielberg talk about his life and his experiences. He really, really avoided his Judaism for quite some time, and he was picked on in school for being a Jew. And he said this if you watch the cast interviews, they say like they always go up to Spielberg and say, "Did this really happen?" Or is this really based on something in your life? He said, "Every single thing, every single moment, every single intense, sad, happy, depressed moment is based off something in my life," and that it takes a lot for someone to come out and tell their whole story. I will definitely compliment him on that. And when he opens the locker and he finds that donut hole and it says Jew hole on it, it's
tough.
Yeah, it's a tough scene. Obviously, really well acted, and I think everyone in their life has to deal with bullying at some point, and it's just something that unfortunately you just can't I was bullied. I don't in high school, well, middle school. I don't know about you, Johnny, but it's just something that, unfortunately, it's just the way of life. Not everyone's going to like you, and you just have to just roll with the punches sometimes.
Yeah, it's tough. But again, when you have stuff that you can kind of lean back on, movies in general, it helps out, man. And I think that's one thing that Spielberg done here. I didn't see the Fabelmans on any kind of streaming service, so that
No.
also doesn't help anything. Um, Spielberg is still one of those old time directors. I'm not gonna put my stuff on stream and go buy the movie. Um,
Well, you convinced me.
it
So
it it worked. Um, but I
I'm
think
surprised. I'm surprised since this is Universal, this is not on Peacock. I'm gonna be honest.
okay, I have one scene that I want to complain about. Not really complain about, but I wanted to bring it to your attention. What was
Okay.
the whole concept or the whole idea behind? Um, I get why the kid was acting so strange and so like, mom, get out of the way. But I don't know why it was in there, and I didn't know how to feel about that scene. Was the scene where Michelle Williams was dancing in the nightgown and the car lights was flashing and you can kind of see through the nightgown? I get why I kind of get why it's in there, but it kind of that scene just really bugged me for some reason.
I
Because
think
because the dad was like, "Oh, okay, she looks beautiful," and then you have Benny right there, and nobody is like the dad's. You know what I mean? It really really made me feel some kind of way.
I think, and this is my interpretation of it. I could be completely wrong. I think that the point of that scene is to show the innocence that's still there before Sammy figures out what's really going on. And I mean, it is kind of jokey in some ways where the daughter kind of figures out like, "Hey, mom, you're see through. Just cover yourself up or whatever." But I think in that moment, in the um,
But
camping with the family,
why would the dad not be like cover up?
because I think he, in that moment, it shows that the dad still loves her. And I think he always will. I always think that
Almost.
even even at the end of the movie where he sees the picture of the happiness between Mitzi and Benny, I think it shows that he still loves her, and he's always going to love her. There's just it's one of those things where just like no matter what someone does to you, you're always going to care about them. But
Damn, Zach.
that's just my interpretation of it. So
Damn, Zach, that's hitting it pretty deep. Um, when you said innocence too, maybe it's like maybe he also thought that my best friend nor my wife could do no wrong, so
yeah,
just let her dance, let her enjoy her moment.
yeah. Even though Seth Rogen had goo goo eyes the entire time, it's just like no, it's beautiful. Keep doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's part of it too. It's just like he couldn't envision a world where his best friend and his wife could do something on that could hurt someone that deeply or cut them that deeply.
It's pretty deep. Even though, Spielberg and they interpret it throughout the movie very well too, that the Fablemans has no villain. There's no bad guy in this movie.
Yeah,
You know,
I
you
think.
feel
I
you
mean,
feel for everybody differently.
yeah, I think that's totally true. You can make an argument that Michelle Williams is the protagonist of the movie, but I don't think that at all. I think she's a woman who is torn between the love of someone she truly loves and the love of the father of her children. And that's something that, anybody, I think anyone would have that struggle deep down to figure out what is the right move.
Did
But
the link of this movie bother you? The link.
I was like you, when the prospect of watching this is like, oh no, 2.5 hours. Okay. But like,
Did you
once we
rewatch
get
it again?
into it, huh? Yeah, I rewatched it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I had to rewatch it for next week, so if it was going to make my top 10, here shortly, you'll probably figure out it will. But once the story gets going, and you get into the Fabelmans like family dynamic, it flies by for me. Like I stopped to go to the bathroom and I was like, oh damn, I'm already an hour and a half into this. So I don't think there's any lag in this. I truly don't. I mean, it kind of goes from one set piece to the other and it flows very, very fluidly, and it doesn't have any dry spells in my opinion. So I think Spielberg succeeded on that notion at least.
One more question. The very end of the movie, when he goes and meets the famous director.
Yeah.
What do you think that was? What's
Who do you
the
think that?
yeah? Who do you think that was? Because obviously they didn't give the real director name. Who do you think that was, or did they? They didn't.
They did.
They
Well,
did?
They didn't come out and bluntly say it, but they showed it through all the different pictures, the posters on the wall. It was John Ford, who was a famous Western director. He did a lot of John Wayne movies.
What do you think that whole? I mean, because I'm not gonna lie. The ending to me was very abrupt, and it kind of just hit you out of nowhere when it said directed by Steven Spielberg. I was like, oh, already?
I think the interpretation of that scene is when he visits one of his idols. It'd be like me visiting Spielberg or Christopher Nolan or something. You're just like awestruck, and you're just like, wow, you're a real person. You did all this, and John Ford's kind of an asshole to him. But I mean, it's like, tell me, the beautiful scene of that scene is just like, go over there and tell me where the horizon is on that picture. And Sam is able to do it. He's able to do it 3 times. And he says, never be true to yourself. It's based. I think the moral of that ending is like, be true to yourself, tell the stories you want to tell, and don't let anyone stop you. And I think the ending scene of him walking out and just kind of going through the movie set is kind of like he's home. And that kind of quote unquote is the moment Spielberg is born, or however you want to say it.
Yeah. Favorite scene, Zach?
Oh. It's kind of out of left field, but it's a really funny scene is when he meets Monica and they go back to her room, and he's just like, I love Jesus, and it's just like, oh really? And her whole wall is like dedicated to Jesus and like the Beach Boys and the Beatles and everything.
That's funny.
I think that's a really funny scene. I think the scene where he comes home and the monkey has created all kinds of chaos, and the dad kind of walks in and is like, Paul Dano walks in and is like, okay, we have a monkey now. Like,
I heard that's I read that's where he got the idea of Indiana Jones having a monkey with him.
Yep, that's true. And I'll say, I think the best scenes of this film is when he is making his little home movies with his friends. The Western film and the war film is just like the young, I can do this, I can do anything. I'm with my friends, I'm having a good time. That I think those scenes are really, really what makes this movie sympathetic and emotional to me. So
my favorite scenes would probably be anytime he shows the movies on the screen in front of the class.
Oh, the Scouts, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, with the score in the background. Those are always really good scenes for me. When he's talking to the tall kid about, hey, just walk. You're seeing all your men die, and just I need you to look sad. And the dude really looks sad, and he just keeps walking. That's a good scene. The scene where he shows his mom the reel of him and of her and Seth
Benny.
Rogen, Benny. That's a real powerful scene. I thought that was really emotional. And then you know what? I gotta say, anytime that I saw Paul Dano and Sammy on screen together, it was pretty powerful with the dad and the son. So, and then the showing the video or the movie of Ditch Day.
Yeah. which we didn't talk about that. Like, I think the main bully, is just so surprised at like how well he like filmed him in that like very heroic light, and he's like, why did you do that? Because it's like, no matter what, people are going to love you. It doesn't matter if I shoot you in a bad light, people are still going to love you. So I might as well just show you how you are. And that really pisses him off, because I think there's some form of fashion. I think he says in the movie is like, this is the best I'm ever going to be. And it's just like, why did you remind me of that? So
Yeah. Yeah, man, this movie hit on all cylinders for me. So, yeah, those are some good scenes.
I'm excited to see where this is going to be, if it's going to make your top 10 next week. So,
Star rating. I'll go first. We rate our movies here out of 10. So for me, this movie, honestly, 1 out of 10. I'm gonna have. I don't have that many movies last year that got a perfect score, but I think I'm gonna have to give this one a 10. At least on that first time watch. Just because of anytime you can put a 2 hour and 35 minute movie in front of me, and it kind of just flies by, and I enjoy all aspects of the movie, whether it be the score, the performances, the opening, the middle, and the end. Um, the story, like I said, it really felt like a coming of age story. I almost kind of compared it to Boyhood.
yeah, that's a great comparison.
And anytime I can see a movie like that is almost 3 hours, but it just flies by, and it touches every aspect of the person's life, like I'm like, man, that can get me, and it's emotional, and you can relate to Sammy in the movie. You can relate to everything he's going through. Um, I just enjoyed it, man, and the performances made everything perfect for me. So I'm gonna give this one 10 stars.
I'm right there with you, man. I'm giving this a 10. You could make an argument that I'm basing this because I'm a Spielberg fan, but it's not. I mean, it's Spielberg. It's about his life. And I remember when they first announced he was doing this, I was just like, is this supposed to be like a parody or something? I really didn't know what this was supposed to be. But seeing it in the theater, seeing a movie about a movie situation, or like a fan or whatever,
That always
it
does
really
something
hits
too.
home. It really hits home the idea of like, this is why we go to the movies. This is why we enjoy films. This is what makes us love films.
Yep.
It's insulting that this did not win anything at the Oscars. It was nominated for Best Picture, Best Director, Best Actress for Michelle Williams, Best Supporting Actor for Judd Hirsch, Best Original Screenplay, Best Score, and Best Production Design. It won nothing, and I don't understand, because out of everything, I would have assumed at least best director, because it's just Spielberg telling his story, and like I said, it takes a lot of courage to do that.
Who won best director, Zach?
The Daniels for Everything Everywhere All at Once.
And you know what? We're going to talk about it some more next week, because we're talking about our top 5+5 movies of 2022. It's definitely going to be interesting to see if the Fabelmans is on there. It's going to be interesting to see if Everything Everywhere All at Once is on there. It's going to be a fun episode. All of our favorite movies from last year, we're going to talk about it next week, right here on a new episode. It's one of the biggest episodes of the year that we always have. We're going to name our favorite actor, actress, favorite horror movie. Our worst dog shit of the year award gets handed out next week. So it's going to be pretty fun. Zach, should we go ahead and let them know what April looks like?
Yeah, that's our first that's the first episode of April. We have, I mean, if you don't mind, I can go ahead and tell.
Yeah.
What the slate is.
Yeah.
So Monday, if you want to show the pictures as I tell them, that's fine.
Yeah, Monday, April 3rd.
We're doing our best of 2022. Our top 5+5 is a top 5+5 episode, which we know people love. April the 10th, we dive back into the world of A24 with The Whale. Brendan Fraser's Oscar-winning performance. We will see what we think about those films, what we think about that film, and then guys, we're gonna do something a little interesting. April 17th, we're gonna do 2 weeks of Nicolas Cage. First with The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, which was a 2022 release, and then April 24th, guys, buckle up. It's time to talk about Face Off, which I've never seen before, so
I'm so excited.
It'll be an interesting conversation, and I don't really know what to expect about this.
Those are some fun films. I can't wait to talk about them next week. Top 5 plus 5 of 2022. But Zach, until next week, do you have anything else that you want to mention about the Fabelmans?
No, if you're a Spielberg fan, I think you will really enjoy this. I know I did. I'm glad you did, Donnie, because I thought I was going to be the one that was just like, ugh. And you're just like, I don't
even think you have to be a Spielberg fan in general. I think if you're just if you're just a movie fan, or if you have a very interesting hobby that you are passionate about, I think you have to see this movie. If you have something that you do on the side, if you're a content creator, this is not like something I'm saying that you have to go out and see. But if you're a content creator, I think you have to watch the Fabelmans, because it just shows how much passion somebody has to do and to put up content or to make movies, and never give up.
Yeah, that's totally true. I agree with everything you just said.
So until next week, guys, go check out the Fabelmans. You can rent it wherever you rent movies: Vudu, Amazon Prime, YouTube TV. It's like $5.99 to go rent it. You can go check it out. Physical media. Zach, that was a fun conversation. Steven Spielberg, the Fabelmans. Next week, we talk our top 5 plus 5 of 2022 right here on another new episode of the Cine-Men Movie Podcast.